wrapping up everything before the holidays. So today we have with us Dan Wood, who's a real estate coach and works a lot with agents on how they can integrate some of those more traditional real estate training practices with technology and really use that to move their business forward. And we also have Steve with us, who works on the technology side with a lot of real estate offices and how they can integrate new tools into their office and get agents on board, etc. So today we're going to be going through some of Dan's best practices for how you can really be constantly in touch with your sphere and your clients so that you always having that regular touch point so that you can be driving referrals from them and connecting with those referral partners that you have on a regular basis in a way that's time effective for you. And so I think with that, it's just a couple minutes after 12 here, so we'll get started. And thanks again, everyone, for joining us today.
Perfect. And thank you for that introduction. And my name is Danny Wood. And really, the main things I do is I help real estate agents with marketing and technology. And I help managers, office managers, with seminars and recruiting. So I'm going to post all of my contact info. And then at the end of the presentation, I'll post all my contact info again. And today, what we're going to be talking about is working a database. And I broke it into 3 parts. So I'm going to be covering contact capture forms and qualifying your leads. I'm also going to cover the 3 main rules for working with any database. And then I'm going to end off with a 90-day referral plan. I also want to touch on growing with your professional network. So starting off with contact capture forms. Before I get into that, I just want to stress a pain point that I know many of you are feeling, and that is you have notes all over the place. When I was starting out in the business, I would be taking a phone call from one of our listings, and I would just jot down the information on the back of an old listing sheet, piece of paper that I had lying around, or on a sticky note, and it just added to the future chaos of the business because I couldn't find the notes and I didn't know who was who. So what I started to do was I took a standard piece of paper, 8.5, 11 sheet of paper, and I standardized my notes so that I could qualify people and carry a conversation and just jot down all the information as we go. So I'm going to zoom in to this piece of paper. I'm going to show you at the very top right, I would be able to capture the contact's name, their phone number, their email, their address. I would also capture where the business came from. So if it was a sign call or an open house or an internet lead, I would track all of that. The very first call that I ever took, I would write down page 1. And then I would keep all the pieces of paper, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4. That way I could follow up with them in the future. I would also make notes. So in the middle, I would have notes, and I would be able to, whatever is going on in their life. They're moving because they're having a baby, and they're moving from a certain city in a certain date, and I could jot down the MLS numbers, whatever conversation we had and notes, I had a place for that on this piece of paper. And then also, I could just circle what they're looking for. If they were a buyer, I could simply circle the city they're looking in, or they're looking for 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, and they want a townhouse under $450,000, and they need a garage, and on and on. But if you're writing out all of the words, you're not fully listening because you're in the moment of you writing out a long-winded word. So with this, it's more like a checkbox, and I can just circle, circle, tick, tick, and it keeps the conversation flowing. And speaking of conversation flowing, because I'm going through the buyer criteria, I can instantly jump up to my qualifying questions, and you can edit these to make them whatever you would want. I put them in a logical order so that it just sounded like a natural conversation. So if I'm working with a buyer and I'm discovering what they want in a home, I would say, okay, so if you were to move, when would you want to move by? And I just leave that question open, and they'll tell me the spring, the summer, the fall. Then I go deeper with that question, and I say, well, if you wanted to move by the spring, when would it make sense for you to get into a car and start looking? That is a main question that a lot of realtors aren't asking. A lot of people will ask when they want to move by. We'll follow up and say, so if you wanted to move by the spring, when would it make sense to get into a car and start looking? This gives you the information of when you should really be following up with these people. Like if you find out they want to go out in a car in 2 weeks, or if they're going away on holidays and they want to go out and get in a car in 4 weeks, you really should know that information. So knowing when they want to move is important, but knowing when they want to start looking is even more important. And then, so that person says they want to start looking in the spring and they want to move by a certain date. I'd say, okay, so when that time comes, do you have a realtor you'll be working with? And they'll answer yes or no, and I'll just check it off. And do you already own a home? Yes or no. Now, if they own a home, I would say, well, do you need to sell it? And they would say yes or no. If they're renting, I would say, okay, perfect, you're renting. So when is the lease up? Like, this is important information for me to know so that if I am to follow up with these people, I'll follow up with them properly. And with this standardized piece of paper, I have the same conversation with every lead that I take, and it keeps me on track with the questions that I should be asking, and it gives me the control of the conversation that I know we need to have. And then I also ask if they've ever talked with a lender about financing. Now, if they do have a home and they need to sell, I would jump down to the selling box, and the first question I ask the people is, was it ever listed on the MLS? Because if they say yes, it was listed on the MLS, I already know I'll have access to how many bedrooms it has, how many bathrooms it has, and all that information. So I can simply say, since you purchased it, have you done anything to either increase the value or decrease the value? That saves me 5 minutes of time of saying how many bedrooms does it have, how many bathrooms, and getting all that information, because the MLS will tell me that. Now, what price were you thinking? It's really important to know if the person you're talking to is in reality of what the market is. A lot of people think their home is worth $1 billion, and it isn't. And then I can just jot down the property type, how many bedrooms, how many baths. And this is if it wasn't on the MLS, I would go through these questions. If it has a basement, and other, I would put in anything they've done. So they added a new roof, windows, get the date and all the information. So this is a real structured way for me to take sign calls on anything. If it's a just listed and we have a new listing, people are calling me off that. If it's an internet lead, like I would have this piece of paper everywhere. I would have a copy of it in my kitchen cupboard. I would have a copy of it in my briefcase, at the office, and in my car underneath the seat. And that way, if I ever had a phone call, I wasn't just scrambling and writing down notes on dingy paper that I found lying around. I actually had this piece of paper that I could follow up with people. And down at the very, very bottom of the sheet of paper is a call log, and that allowed me to continually follow up with these people. So I would put the date, I would put the action, and I would put any notes about the call. And then I would follow up with them accordingly. So what happened was, once I started getting all these pieces of paper, I would put them into a binder, page 1, page 2, page 3, and they were all in order. Then, on the left side of the binder, I put a calendar of the year. And zooming in a bit, on that calendar of the year, so see, this is a sheet that I filled out. I took the sign call and I filled out all of my notes, and this is ID number 30, meaning this is page 30 in the binder. Well, what I would do is I would take that 30 and I would put it on the date of when I should be calling these people. So on April 3rd, I should be calling page 30. And then this calendar would have all of the different page numbers of people that I would need to follow up with. So say, page 30, I had to call them on April 3rd. On April 3rd, I call that person, they don't answer the phone. Well, I would push the date forward by 3 days and then call them again. Finally, I connect with this person on the phone. They say, yeah, we're thinking in a couple weeks. So then I would change it to a couple weeks, and I would put page 30. Then in 2 weeks, when I call those people again, they say, no, you know what, we ended up not being able to get the financing. We don't think we can move. Well, I would just add it to end of the year phone call. Just constantly staying in touch with these people, seeing how things are going. That way, whenever I did have a qualified lead or somebody that I thought I could work with in the future, I didn't want to just drop the ball and never connect with them again. So going forward, I ended up actually getting a contact management system, a database. So I got sophisticated, and but I still use these sheets of paper. So I still use the sheets of paper because they keep me on track with my questions and everything. But what I started doing is taking a picture of that piece of paper, and then I would email that to our admin. So I would still use these call capture forms, and I would get all of my notes and write down all my information. Then I would simply take a picture of that piece of paper, send it to my admin, and they'd be able to add them to the database. They'd be able to set them up on the drip plan, set them up on the buyer alert, getting them homes that match their criteria, and doing the CMA of what the home is worth. So I still use these piece of papers to this date. Only I take a picture and then I'll email it to my admin, and then they do everything that has to be done. Now, speaking of databases, I broke this talk into 3 parts. So the second part is the 3 rules of working with any database. And I got to express something here. Many of you may have a database, but it is just a big folder system of names and emails, and you don't know who half the people are. You don't know where any of the files are. It's a big dirty mess. So what I'm going to share with you is the 3 rules that work with any database that will keep you on top of your game. So rule 1 is to always have a next call date. Rule 2 is to be using groups, lists, buckets, or tags, and I'm going to go into detail in just a second. And rule 3 is simplifying your notes. So let's take a look at rule 1. Rule 1 is the next call date. Any database that you use, you'll be able to add a next call date. Whenever you add a contact to your database, whatever that database is, you can always add a new task, and I would simply name it next call date. And I would put the date to whenever it makes sense that I have to follow up with that person. Now, say this is an internet lead and I have to call them in 3 days. Well, I will set the date for 3 days from now, and then in 3 days, I'll call that person. If they don't answer the phone, I don't mark this as a done task. What I do is I change the date to another date. So if it's Wednesday and I have to call them again, I'll try on Friday. So I'd click Friday, and then I would hit save, and then come Friday, my database is going to tell me I have to call these people. So I'll call him again, and maybe this time I connect, and he says, yeah, we're going away, try us in 2 weeks. Well, I don't mark this as a done thing, I just change the next call date, and I would change it for 3 weeks, or 2 weeks. So on the 15th, I would give him another call. And then the call is never done. So say in 2 weeks, this person says we're not moving or anything. Again, I would just click the forward button and move it to a year. They always have a next call date assigned. If somebody goes into your database and they don't have a next call date, you're going to end up losing them in the void, and you're not going to be following up with these people, and you're going to be too embarrassed because 2 years went by since you've talked to them. And then what good is your database then? It's not good at all. So with this simple rule, if a person is worth being added to your database, they definitely need a next call date. Rule 2 is using lists, groups, buckets, or tags. Depending on the database you're using, they'll name it something different, but essentially you'll be able to put all your contacts in your database and identify who are my sphere of influence, my friends, my family, my past clients. You'll also want to identify who are your buyer leads, and you'll want to identify who are your seller leads. A lot of realtors are using tags and lists, but they have like 50 different lists, and it becomes too hard to manage. If you want to manage your database, I say start small and start with these 3: your sphere of influence, your buyer leads, and your seller leads. Your whole goal is to get the people out of the buyer leads column and put them into your sphere. If you want to get more technical, you can add other lists like investors and tenants, or other agents or mortgage brokers, or whatever different groups and buckets you can use. But at the end of the day, I say these 3 are the main ones, and if you only had these 3, it keeps it a nice clean system. And the reason why you want to put people in a list or a group or a bucket is because you can search those people. So wouldn't it be really nice for you to just go into your database and search for all of your sphere? Because then you can send them a mass email about your client appreciation event. Or you can send them a direct mail about something. Or you could pull off all your buyer leads and send them a mass email. Even if you have a list of investors and tenants, you could email them a list about your events and seminars. But if you don't have people broken down into lists, groups, or buckets, then how are you going to mass email anybody properly? Like, you're not going to want to mass email your mom or your daughter because they may be in your database about something that has nothing to do with them. You wouldn't email them about a seminar, but you would email them about a client appreciation event and friends and family. So you have to break your database down into smaller chunks, and the 3 that make sense to me is sphere, buyers, and sellers. Now, rule number 3 is simple notes. Any database that you're using has a section for you to add notes. So remember that piece of paper that I had for taking calls? It structured all the questions that I wanted to ask. Well, I typed that out into a Word document, and then what I do is I would have this Word document on my computer, and when I'm adding a new contact to my database, I simply open up the database, add that contact, and then in the notes section, I would simply copy and paste. There's no questions on here, it's just next call, first contact. I would highlight all of this, copy it, and then paste it into the notes section. And what this does is it structures my calls going forward. I'll be able to, what's the next call going to be? This person's going to Cuba and they're back in 2 weeks. Well, that's really important information to know. So I just fill in the blanks as I go. The first contact, I met these people at an open house at 123 Street in March. They want to move by the spring, cell phone request. So I ask people whenever I'm on the phone with people, at the end of our conversation, I'll say, by the way, this phone number I called you at, was it your cell phone? And the people will answer yes or no. And if they say yes, I'll type the word yes here. And what I do is in my own phone, I saved me as a contact. So I have an iPhone. So in my iPhone, I added me, Dan Wood, as a contact in that phone. It has my name, my phone number, my email, my website, all my social media. And I save that as a contact record. Well, when I hang up a phone conversation with somebody and I know it's their cell phone, I'll text them my contact card. That way they can save it into their phone. Because that's their database. That's the consumer's CRM. They don't have a database like we do. So I felt it was a really important goal of mine to get saved into as many people's phones as possible. Because if they think about real estate, I want them to give me a call. And then down at the bottom, I have other questions. So house values and type. They have a $500,000 condo. Any past transactions. So we sold 123 Street for $300,000. He likes running, and notes. They're having a baby, expecting in the summer. You can see how you have all this information at your fingertip as the conversation goes on and as your relationship with this person goes deeper, making it much easier for you to pick up the phone and carry on a conversation. Like in this example, I'm missing when do they need to sell, if they're financed, and if they have an agent. So on my next phone call, when my system is telling me I have to call these people, I'm reading my notes and I'm totally caught up on who they are and like how I found them and where we left off. But then I can also see questions that I haven't yet asked. Like I haven't found out if they need to sell, because maybe when I called them, they were running out the door and our conversation got cut short. So I didn't get to fully qualify these people. So having simple notes in your database, just standardize the notes that you continually ask and things that you need to know. So this next call, I always edit this note. I'll come back to this and I'll change going to Cuba back in 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks when I call this guy, I would call him and then I would erase that and put what's the next call about. Oh, I have to find out if he needs to sell. I will make these notes. They're for my eyes only, and I'm making notes on to me as to why I'm even calling these people. Because if this person was set for a next call date in 6 months, 6 months later it comes up and tells me I have to call this person. If I don't have any notes, I am not going to know why I'm calling these people. I'm just going to be guessing, and they're going to remember the conversation where you guys last left off. But we and you have had so many conversations, you really need to get in the habit of taking proper notes. So if you're going to do that, instead of having a jumbled mess, you might as well structure it so it's the same for each contact. So by doing this, I just typed out a Word document that has all of my questions, and then I would paste it in the notes section and then keep that ball going forward. So the third part of today is the 90-day referral plan. So if you are using a database, a lot of you have a database and they're complicated. You have these dirty, messy looking drip plans that you don't even know if they're working properly. I just got a caution on this. What you need is a solid game plan that is simple, that works with any database, and not complicated. So I'm going to try and uncomplicate our follow-up plan. So the game plan is to print off your database and staple the pages together. What we do is we would go into our database, pull off our list of our sphere of influence, our buyer leads, and our seller leads. We will print that in an Excel sheet staple all of the pages together. Then what we do is we count how many contacts are on that paper, and we would divide it by 12. The reason we're dividing by 12 is because a 90-day period is 12 weeks. So over the next 12 weeks, we're going to want to call all of these contacts. Well, if I have 300 contacts, that's a lot of people to call in 1 or 2 weeks. So I want to take 300 and divide it by 12 weeks, and that equals 25 people. So for the next 12 weeks, I'll call 25 people. Week 1, week 2, I'll call 25 people. Week 3, I'll call 25 people. And I just go down the list and I call the people. So in that case, on our piece of paper, we would draw a line every 25 contacts. So on the Excel sheet that I printed, I would count down by 25 and draw a line. Count down 25 more, draw another line. And I would keep doing that until I had 12 equal groups. Now the game plan is really simple. Starting next week, group 1 is week 1. Group 2 is week 2, and so on. So I would call those people on Monday with a script. I would call them again on Wednesday maybe, and on Friday, if I called them again and didn't get them, I would leave a voicemail. So this is a sample of a script that I would use. I would use this one based on house values, especially leading into the new year. I would just call my database and just let them know that we're updating the local house value reports, and we're just curious if they're interested in seeing that. Like, it's a real simple conversation to start the ball with. And what I want to point out is on the piece of paper, so here's my piece of paper, I stapled it together, I counted down, draw a line, count down, draw a line. What you're going to see is you're going to be seeing holes that you're missing. So you might have a column of addresses, and you might have a column of phone numbers and emails. Well, once it's all printed out, you're going to see you're missing a whole bunch of emails, and you're missing a whole bunch of cell phones. So when I'm calling these people, I'm also going to be asking them for that information because I want a totally clean and up-to-date database. If I'm missing a person's address, I'm going to ask them the script, try and get a referral, but I'm also going to try and get the information that I'm missing. If I'm missing their email, I'll get that. If I don't have their phone number and I can't call them, I'll email them directly, or I'll send them a Facebook message directly asking for their phone number because I can't call them because I don't have their number. So this is a system for you to not only easily contact your database, but you can also complete your database. Reasons for you to make these phone calls would be house value updates, like I just suggested, home buyer referrals, if they know anybody who's buying in the new year, this is a great time for asking that question. If you have client appreciation events, using a company or an agent app, which we can actually get to in just a second, and then you're growing your professional network. This is a really important one, growing your professional network. So who are all the vendors in your area? Like, who are all the home inspectors? Who are all the plumbers? Who are the electricians? Go down the list, and if you contact your database to find out who they know for those services, what you're doing is you're reaching out to them, you're getting their information and their engagement because they want to help their friends and family who are in that industry or in that business. And what you're doing is you're cleaning up your database on that end because you're calling your own sphere, but then you're also growing your database with the people that they know that are in those service sectors and fields. So when I talked about when I'm on the phone and I ask the person, is this your cell phone? And they say yes, and I'll text them my contact info. Well, Steve is about to come up because he has an app that works perfectly with this. Instead of sharing your contacts, they have an app that not only has your contact, but it has more. Steve, can you show them this tool that you have? That it's the app, it has all their contact info, but it also has a list of all the vendors and all the other services?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Dan. And that was really great information, really helpful. I'm sure everybody got great value out of that. As you can see on my phone here, we do have an app that is custom branded for the real estate office and for the agents. And what you can see here is your icon for your company sits on your client's phone. So it sits on there. Once you send it to them through your social media or through your marketing efforts, you can get your branding, your logo on your client's phone. It's sort of like a fridge magnet for the phone, but never goes away. So when you open it up and you want to share your contacts with somebody, just like Dan was saying, typically now you'll probably just text it out of your own contact list. This gives you a little bit more information, a little bit more that you can provide with them simply by hitting the top right button, the button in the top right-hand corner. I can share this app on Facebook or Twitter. I can easily mail it to my clients or prospects and also text message it just by hitting those buttons. Brings up this message. You can personalize this message a little bit and send it off to your clients real easily that way, Dan.
That's cool. It's kind of like a digital business card, but it has more function to it.
Exactly. So we have a lot of agents. We have thousands of agents using our app right now, and many of them tell me, they no longer hand out their business cards because, as you know, people lose business cards very quickly. If you want to send this to them, they can basically use this as a digital card that no one ever loses, because if you lose your phone, that's a $900 mistake, and you don't want to be doing that.
And it's not just contact info. What else is it?
Oh, yeah, the great value behind this. So, of course, they'll have your contact information to reach out to you as well, but they can also view your profile. So you'll update your profile in here. We'll put your information in for you, and your clients can easily contact you by hitting that Send Ad Contact button. They can refer a friend very easily to you. So if they're having coffee or lunch with a friend or family member and that person tells them they're looking to buy a house, they don't have a real estate agent, they can hit that refer button, populate the information quite easily from their address book, and send a referral to their friend. But the real value is also all these vendors. So I'm sure all of you get calls from your clients saying, hey, do you got a guy for this? Hey, do you got a guy for that? I know when I was a real estate agent, I got those calls all the time, and I was scrambling for that information. You have to go into your address book, you're scrambling through your desk of drawers or an Excel spreadsheet, but we populate the app with all your information in there. For example, looking for a landscaper, here's Brian's Landscaping. I can easily send that contact to that person very easily. But the real value is I've gone out and I've pre-negotiated discounts with my vendors. So I can pass on that value to my clients. And just like Dan was saying earlier, you want to strengthen those relationships with those vendors. You want to have a 90-day referral program in place where you're going to strengthen those relationships with those vendors. Go out, get a discount from them, pass it on to your clients. They love it.
That's cool. So actually, the agents, what they could do is the 90-day referral challenge that I touched on. What they could do is reach out to all of their contacts asking, what vendors do you know? And because maybe the agent doesn't know a landscaper and maybe they don't know a painter. So they can just go through that and then kind of build up the hype on this app and say, yeah, we're creating this app and it's going to give you volume price discounts on all these services. So once it's made, I'll be sure to follow up with you and get you a copy.
For sure. I would even take it a step further, and I would make sure all my vendors that I have a current relationship with, because everybody has a home inspector they work with or a mortgage broker and even some other professional services, make sure they know you have this app. Get them your app in their hands so they can refer you to their clients as well, because that's the sphere of that's the theory of reciprocity. You send me referrals, I'm going to send you referrals back too.
Oh, that's cool. This looks like a great call to action as well. If you had a landing page on your website, you could drive traffic to it and have people downloading it right away, or even in the agent's email signature, because that link that you share, that share button up at the top right.
I'll show you that again.
Yeah, you could just or even on Facebook, you could post it on Facebook and drive people right to that to get the app.
For sure, there's a real big push to how do I expose myself on my social media? How do I get new information out to my clients? Give me another reason to call my clients. Give me another reason to stay in touch. I mean, that's what real estate agents live for. They want to stay top of mind. And the best thing when they're staying top of mind is if you can pass them on all this relevant information, it's timely. You can even send push notifications through this app. Over here in the just in the sidebar section, there's an area where you can send push notifications. So meaning you can send a push to anybody who's downloaded your app. You can tell them about market information in their neighborhood, just holds. You can invite them to social events through these push notifications, share your feature sheets, your LinkedIn profile, your Facebook profile, anything you want to do, because being a real estate agent is all about staying top of mind and relevant and providing great value back to your clients after the sale.
Oh, cool. So push notifications, for people that don't know, like on your iPhone or on your phone, your email, if you got a brand new email, it would have a number on that app showing you that you have a new message. So basically anybody who has this realtor app will get a message directly in the app and they'll get notified about it on their phone, and the agent can do that anytime they want.
Absolutely, it's very easy to do. We set you up with a web manager, so you can go in through a back end and just type in any sort of personal message, or type in or add a URL to, like I said, your Facebook page, your LinkedIn profile, your feature sheets, market information that you want to send it. I mean, you're doing that anyways. You're always. I mean, I get emails from real estate agents all the time with the market updates. But if I can get that on my iPhone, because everybody nowadays is all about convenience. They want everything at their fingertips. And when you can send them that information, they can get it right away. That's going to really bode well for you and helping you stay top of mind for your clients.
That's cool. It's kind of like mass text messaging, only you're not text messaging them, but it'll still go on their home screen as if it is. Huh.
Exactly. So at the end of the day, this is really a convenient online hub for your profile, for your vendor list, for a way to stay connected with your clients.
And so speaking of that, how are agents using this for their business? Like I could picture at open houses, instead of like giving out cards, giving this as a download on the spot. Like, how are agents using this for business?
Absolutely. That's a really good example. So we have agents that have told me that at open houses, they have 20 parties come through. They grab the names and the phone numbers, so they have a dialogue with the people coming through the open house, because they're a prospect, as you know, and they say, hey, instead of taking my business card today, let me share my app with you. And I've gone out and I've negotiated some discounts with the pizza guy down the street and the auto guy down the street as well. I want to pass on that information to you so you can have it. And of course, you can contact me anytime, through my profile here on this app. There's my phone number, there's my email address, there's all my, background and my history, so you can see how good of an agent I am. And that's a really good way to do it. Also, people are using it, our agents are using it at closings. They're using it at listing presentations. They use it as a competitive advantage against their competitors who don't have the app. So we're getting that feedback from our clients and our agents that are using it, and they just love it.
Oh,
for those reasons.
Local networking would be huge, especially at like a Chamber of Commerce event when you're speed networking. This would be awesome.
Absolutely. I know. I mean, I go to those meetings and I get 15 business cards, 20 business cards, and I come back and I look at, geez, who was that person again? And why did I talk to him? I mean, you can just share your app with them right away, and then you can put a note inside of there that's saying, hey, this is who this person is, and they'll never lose it. Like I said, you don't lose yourself, you don't lose your iPhone, you don't lose your tablet, you don't lose those things. They're big mistakes. And, as a society, for some reason, we're obsessed at looking at our phone, 30 times a day for no reason. So your branding, your logo, is right there on your client's phone, on your connections phones, on your service provider's phones. They will remember you because you're right there, right in front of them every day, every time they look at their phone.
This sounds like a great icebreaker too. So if I had this, I would use this for calling all of my old internet leads, like all the leads that I generated last year that are kind of on the fence or kind of stale.
Yeah.
I could reshake that tree and call them all and just say, hey, we got this awesome new app that we're about to launch, and it gives you volume discounts on all the great services locally. And also, how are things going? Are you still thinking of moving? Like, it would give me that conversation to start easily with, like, offering them something. And then at the end of the call, I'd text it to them.
100%, Dan. That's exactly how it could be used. You're always looking for new reasons to stay in touch with your clients. And I remember when I was a real estate agent, I totally struggled with that. Like, how can I call this guy? What do I got to give him? I got to give him some new information. I just can't call him and talk about the weather anymore. So this is a great tool for that. Absolutely.
And so this sounds amazing. Now, if the brokerages had a company app, all the agents would get a personal one?
Yes, exactly. That's how it works. I mean, you can do it two ways. You can see how some agents have their own personal app. They want to get their own branding out there. But a lot of these ones that you see on my phone here, these are companies. And if you open those up, we preload the app. We'll build it out for the companies. We'll load up all the agents inside that company. If they have 10 agents or 500, we put it in there. So the company gets it. The agent gets it for free. The brokerage looks after all that sort of stuff, and we turnkey it for them as well.
Now, if the agent wanted to get it on their own, they could still, in a roundabout way, get it for free by doing the sponsorship one?
Sort of. So the way that works, the only difference is if an agent gets their own app, as you can see on my home screen here, they would have their picture, their branding, their logo, just like these lovely gals here. The difference is when an office gets it, we build it up with their branding, just like these Remax here or these Royal LePage ones here or Realty Executives. And when you open those up, just like this Realty Pros one, then all the agents are preloaded in there.
Oh.
So those are slightly different, but basically the end result is the same. They will get their own version of the app one way or another.
And the vendor sponsorship program, how does that work?
That's more of an advertising opportunity. So the way that works is if you develop these relationships with those vendors, we can show them that through our data and analytics that we have built into the web manager that, hey, they're getting lots of activity. We're sending this out to our clients. And if they want to be highlighted, just like you see these ones scrolling at the bottom of my page here, we have an advertising business model in place where they can actually monetize the app a little bit. So you can use this app, you can make a few bucks off of it, selling advertising to some of your more popular vendors that you want to highlight in the app.
That's so cool. So the agents could split the cost, essentially get a mortgage broker, get a title company, get the lawyers, get the home inspector, get painters, get a whole bunch of people and say, it's only $25 a month, or it's only $50 a month, or whatever, and we're going to get X number of people on this app. And those people would sign up and then pay, and then essentially the agent has no cost.
The agent gets the app for free, and maybe they even make a little extra beer and pizza money at the end of the day with this. And the ones that do pay for the sponsorship or advertising, they get highlighted in the app, just like you see these Got Junk one here. The profile is a lot more enhanced. They get the scrolling at the bottom as well, and we aggregate all those discounts in one section on the app for them to see.
Oh man, this is so cool. I could totally see how, like, if I was an agent, I would definitely be on the bandwagon of first contacting the vendors to get them enrolled in the program, going through my database to find out who they know that are a painter, that are fit all the other fields that I'm looking for, and then maybe even get it covered by having them sponsor it. So
100%, that's a great way to do it.
So if people are interested or want to recommend it to the broker, how would they go about doing that?
I think Fiona's going to throw up a piece of a landing page here where we have our contact information. Fiona, can you get to that?
Yeah, definitely. So our company is client linked by QuickLinked, and if you are interested, what you can do is you can go here to our website, clientlink.com/get-started, and fill out your information, and a rep was in touch usually in under 24 hours. And as well as being part of this presentation today, we are offering a discounted price to any agent or any agent who would recommend it to their brokerage. We'll also be sending out information at the end to all attendees so that you can have this information again, a bit more details, and some of the highlights of the presentation.
Oh, this is really cool. Steve, you know what? I'm going to be introducing this to a bunch of the agents that I know, and the broker owners especially.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Sam. We would really appreciate that. I think it would actually build a lot more credibility with your business as well when you introduce some great products like this, obviously.
Perfect. Well, thanks for having me, guys. And anybody on the call, you're going to get a recorded version of this, I believe. And in that, at the bottom of all my PowerPoints, had my email, had my phone number, and all my contact info. So if you need to reach me, you can. So I appreciate you guys inviting me on this webinar.